Reading through the Bible in 1 year, July 31st, Judges 16 through 17, Psalms 131 through 133, Jeremiah 23, 9 through 40, and Psalm 13 through 16. Very warm in this room. So Samson went to Gaza, and there he saw a prostitute, and he went into her, as one does. The Gazites were told, "Samson has come here." So they surrounded the place and set an ambush for him all night at the gate of the city. They kept quiet all night, saying, "Let us wait until the light of the morning, then we will kill him." But Samson lay till midnight, and at midnight he arose and took hold of the doors of the gate of the city and the 2 posts, and pulled them up, bar and all, and put them on his shoulders and carried them to the top of the hill that is in front of Hebron. Okay, this is a big deal because it's about 40 miles away. And is there a note here as to the weight of those things? Basically, he took the entire door, the frame, everything, threw it up on his shoulders and left. These are the giant gates that are on the city. That are at the beginning of the city. He took them, threw them over his shoulder, and went on a 46-mile walk. It's kind of ridiculous. 1 second. Yeah, it's a very long walk. Kind of scary. After this, he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah. And the lords of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, "Seduce him, and see where his great strength lies, and by what means we may overpower him, that we may bind him to humble him. And we will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver." That's a ton of money. So Delilah said to Samson, "Please tell me where your great strength lies, and how you may be bound so that one could subdue you." Not putting on airs at all. Samson said to her, "If they bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, then I shall become weak and be like any other man." Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 fresh bowstrings that had not been dried. And so, and she bound him with them. Now she had men lying in ambush in an inner chamber. And she said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." But he snapped the bowstrings as a thread of flax snaps when it touches the fire. So the secret of his strength was not known. Then Delilah said to Samson, "Behold, you have mocked me and told me lies. Please now, tell me how you might be bound." And he said to her, "If they bind me with new ropes that have not been used, then I should become weak like any other man." So Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them and said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." And the men lying in ambush were in an inner chamber. But he snapped the ropes off his arms like a thread. Then Delilah said to Samson, "Until now you have mocked me and told me lies. Tell me how you might be bound." And he said to her, "If you weave the 7 locks of my head with the web and fasten it tight with the pin, then I will become weak like any other man." So while he slept, Delilah took the 7 locks of his head and wove them into the web. And she made them tight with the pin and said to him, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." But he woke from his sleep and pulled away from the pin, the loom, and the web. She said to him, "How can you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times. You have not told me where your great strength lies." He's not very smart because he hasn't yet figured out what's going on. And when she pressed him hard with her words day after day and urged him, his soul was vexed to death, and he told her all his heart. And he said to her, "A razor has never come upon my head, for I have been a Nazirite to God from my mother's womb. If my head is shaved, then my strength will leave me, and I will become weak like any other man." So there's a note here. If my head is shaved, Samson seems to have ignored all the other aspects of his vow. His true strength is not in his hair, nor is it in his body or anything else. It's in the Spirit of the Lord. Every time the Spirit of the Lord rushes upon him, then he has this great strength to do things, and he hasn't yet figured that out. When Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come up again, for he has told me all his heart." Then the lords of the Philistines came up to her, and brought the money in their hands. And she made him sleep on her knees. And she called a man, and had him shave off the 7 locks of his head. She began to torment him, and his strength left him. She said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." And he awoke from his sleep, and said, "I will go out as at other times, and shake myself free." But he did not know that the Lord had left him. The Philistines seized him, and gouged out his eyes, and brought him down to Gaza, and bound him with bronze shackles, and he ground at the mill in the prison. But the hair of his head began to grow again after it had been shaved. Now, the notes here are important. The Spirit of the Lord no longer gives him his strength. God had been his power, not magic associated with his long hair. But God, given that he had continued to put himself, up with this Philistine woman who wasn't his wife, and basically he was continuing to mock God with this, God took his strength away from him. Now, the lords of the Philistines gathered to offer a sacrifice to Dagon, their god, and to rejoice. And they said, "Our God has given Samson, our enemy, into our hand." And when the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, "Our God has given our enemy into our hand, the ravager of our country, who has killed many of us." And when their hearts were merry, they said, "Call Samson, that he may entertain us." So they called Samson out of the prison, and he entertained them. They made him stand between the pillars, and Samson said to the young men who held him by the hand, "Let me feel the pillars on which the house rests, so that I may lean against them." Now the house was full of men and women. All the lords of the Philistines were there, and on the roof there were about 3,000 men and women, who looked on while Samson entertained. Then Samson called to the Lord and said, "O Lord God, please remember me, and please strengthen me only this once, O God, that I may be avenged on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." And Samson grasped the two middle pillars on which the house rested, and he leaned his weight against them, his right hand on the one and his left hand on the other. And Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." Then he bowed with all his strength, and the house fell upon the lords and upon all the people who were in it. So the dead whom he killed at his death were more than those whom he had killed during his life. Then his brothers and all his family came down and took him and brought him up and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of Manoah his father. He had judged Israel 20 years. Again, remember, he was kind of a terrible judge. He didn't follow what God had told him to do. He only partially delivered them from the Philistines. He kind of tormented the Philistines more than anything else, but never really delivered them from them. But he was still the judge, air quotes, judge in Israel during that time. And this is where the book just gets terrible. This is, if you've never read through Judges before, up until now, it's been kind of redeemable. You could always go, well, yeah, there's something you can still at least pull out of it that's, kind of worthwhile. There's not much else redeemable throughout the rest of this book. And you're going to see what I mean as we go through it. So there was a man of the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Micah. And he said to his mother, "The 1,100 pieces of silver that were taken from you, about which you uttered a curse, and also spoke it in my ears, behold, the silver is with me, I took it." So his mother said, "Blessed be my son by the Lord." And he restored the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother. So he's a thief, and he restored it. And his mother said, now, if you restore something that you steal, you're supposed to give back a fifth. He didn't do that. He just gave it back. And his mother said, oh yeah, I already did that one. There we go. And his mother said, "I dedicate the silver to the Lord from my hand for my son." Great. Stop there. End of the book, right? No. To make a carved image and a metal image. Gods. She's going to use this that she's now dedicating to God to make idols for herself. Now, therefore, I will restore it to you. So when he restored the money to his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave it to the silversmith, who made a carved image and a metal image. And it was in the house of Micah. And the man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and household gods, and ordained one of his sons who became his priest. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. Remember, this is the theme of this book. Now, there was a young man of Bethlehem in Judah, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite. I'm not really sure how that works, because Levites are Levites by birth. They're not Levites because they've chosen to be Levites. They actually come through the family of Levi, not the family of Judah. But it says he's a Levite. And he sojourned there. Well, Levites aren't supposed to sojourn. Remember, where is their inheritance? What is it that they're given? They're given to serve God. All the Levites, everything they get is simply to serve God, and that's it. And they serve God at the various temples that are set up for them, and that's the only place that they do it. They don't go to random places and just, offer to work for those places to make money. Yet that's what he's doing. And the man departed from the town of Bethlehem in Judah to sojourn where he could find a place. Basically, he's just looking to be a priest for somebody for money. And as he journeyed, he came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah. And Micah said to him, "Where do you come from?" And he said to him, "I am a Levite of Benjamin in Judah. And I am going to sojourn where I may find a place." And Micah said to him, "Stay with me and be to me a father and a priest, and I will give you 10 pieces of silver a year and a suit of clothes and your living." It's pretty good money. He's going to be a household priest for this guy. And Micah is looking at it like, woohoo. We now have a legitimate priest of the family of Levi, and we have a Levitical priest who's going to be here, who's going to serve for me in front of these gods that I've created. So he's looking at it as it's going to legitimize his worship. And the Levite went in. And the Levite was content to dwell with the man, and the young man became to him like one of his sons. And Micah ordained the Levite. That's not how it works. And the young man became his priest and was in the house of Micah. Then Micah said, "I know that the Lord, capital Lord, I know that God, Yahweh, will prosper me because I have a Levite as priest." There is absolutely nothing good that can come from this. And don't worry, it gets worse. So we're going to go through more of that tomorrow. Woohoo! Now, Psalm 131 through 133. Psalm 131. O Lord, my heart is not lifted up. My eyes are not raised too high. I do not occupy myself with things too great and too marvelous for me. But I have calmed and quieted my soul. Like a weaned child with its mother, like a weaned child is my soul within me. O Israel, hope in the Lord from this time forth and forevermore. Psalm 132. Remember, O Lord, in David's favor, all the hardships he endured, how he swore to the Lord and vowed to the Mighty One of Jacob, "I will not enter my house or get in my bed. I will not give sleep to my eyes or slumber to my eyelids until I find a place for the Lord, a dwelling place for the Mighty One of Jacob." Behold, we heard of it in Ephrathah. We found it in the fields of Jaar. Let us go to his dwelling place. Let us worship at his footstool. Arise, O Lord, and go to your resting place, you and the ark of your might. Let your priests be clothed with righteousness, and your saints shout for joy. For the sake of your servant David, do not turn away the face of your anointed one. The Lord swore to David a sure oath, from which he will not turn back. One of the sons of your body I will set on your throne, if your sons keep my covenant and my testimonies that I shall teach them. Their sons also forever shall sit on your throne. This line's important. Remember that. It comes up later. For the Lord has chosen Zion. He has desired it for his dwelling place. This is my resting place forever. Here I will dwell, for I have desired it. I will abundantly bless her provisions. I will satisfy her poor with bread. Her priests I will clothe with salvation, and her saints will shout for joy. There I will make a horn to sprout for David. I have prepared a lamp for my anointed. His enemies I will clothe with shame, but on him his crown will shine. Psalm 133. Behold, how good and pleasant it is when the brothers dwell in unity. It is like the precious oil on the head, running down on the beard of Aaron, running down on the collar of his robes. It is like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord has commanded the blessing, life forevermore. Now Jeremiah 23, 9 through 40. Lying prophets. Concerning the prophets, my heart is broken within me. All my bones shake. I am like a drunken man, like a man overcome with wine. Because of the Lord and because of his holy words, for the land is full of adulterers. Because of the curse, the land mourns, and the pastures of the wilderness are dried up. Their course is evil, and their might is not right. Both prophet and priest are ungodly. Even in my house I have found their evil, declares the Lord. Therefore, their way shall be to them like slippery paths in the darkness, into which they shall be driven and fall. For I will bring disaster upon them in the year of their punishment, declares the Lord. In the prophets of Samaria I saw an unsavory thing. They prophesied by Baal, and they led my people Israel astray. But in the prophets of Jerusalem I have seen a horrible thing. They commit adultery and walk in lies. They strengthen the hands of evildoers so that no one turns from his evil. All of them have become like Sodom to me, and its inhabitants like Gomorrah. Therefore, thus says the Lord concerning his prophets, behold, I will feed them with bitter food, and give them poisoned water to drink. For from the prophets of Jerusalem, ungodliness has gone out into all the land. Thus says the Lord of hosts, do not listen to the words of the prophets who prophesy to you, filling you with vain hopes. They speak visions of their own minds and not from the mouth of the Lord. They say continually to those who despise the word of the Lord, oh, it shall be well with you. And to everyone who stubbornly follows his own heart, they say, no disaster shall come upon you. For who among them has stood in the counsel of the Lord to see and to hear his word? Or who has paid attention to his word and listened? Behold, the storm of the Lord, wrath is gone forth, a whirling tempest. It will burst upon the head of the wicked. The anger of the Lord will not turn back until he has executed and accomplished the intents of his heart. In the latter days you will understand it clearly. I did not send the prophets, yet they ran. I did not speak to them, yet they prophesied. But if they had stood in my counsel, then they would have proclaimed my words to my people. And they would have turned away from them. Rather, they would have turned them from their evil way and from the evil of their deeds. Am I a God at hand, declares the Lord, and not a God far away? Can a man hide himself in secret places so that I cannot see him, declares the Lord? Do I not fill heaven and earth, declares the Lord? I have heard what the prophets have said, who prophesy lies in my name, saying, I have dreamed, I have dreamed. How long shall there be lies in the heart of the prophets who prophesy lies and who prophesy the deceit of their own heart, who think to make my people forget my name by their dreams that they tell to one another, even as their fathers forgot my name for Baal. Let the prophet who has a dream tell the dream. But let him who has my word speak my word faithfully. What has straw in common with wheat, declares the Lord? Is not my word like fire, declares the Lord, and like a hammer that breaks the rock in pieces? Therefore, behold, I am against the prophets, declares the Lord, who steal my words from one another. Behold, I am against the prophets, declares the Lord, who use their tongues and declares the Lord. Behold, I am against those who prophesy lying dreams, declares the Lord, and who tell them and lead my people astray by their lies and their recklessness, when I did not send them or charge them, so that they do not profit this people at all, declares the Lord. When one of this people, or a prophet, or a priest asks you, what is the burden of the Lord? You shall say to them, You are the burden, and I will cast you off, declares the Lord. As for the prophet, priest, or one of the people who says, the burden of the Lord, I will punish that man and his household. Thus you shall say, everyone to his neighbor and everyone to his brother, what has the Lord answered? Or what has the Lord spoken? But the burden of the Lord you shall mention no more, for the burden is every man's own word. And you pervert the words of the living God, the Lord of hosts, our God. Thus you shall say to the prophet, what has the Lord answered you? Or what has the Lord spoken? But if you say, the burden of the Lord, thus says the Lord, because you have said these words, the burden of the Lord, when I sent to you, saying, you shall not say the burden of the Lord. Therefore, behold, I will surely lift you up and cast you away from my presence. You and the city that I gave to you and to your fathers, and I will bring upon you everlasting reproach and perpetual shame, which shall not be forgotten. See if there's a note in here about the burden of the Lord. All right, yeah. So here's basically the only thing that I've seen. I'm going to read the note on the note on this from both the ESV Study Bible and the Reformed Study Bible, or Reformation Study Bible. So first from the Reformation Study Bible. So burden, the word is typically used in judgment oracles. The people's desire for a message from God might sound spiritual, but is actually a rebellious refusal to hear the clear word that he has already declared to them. ESV Study Bible says it as follows. There's a word play here, because the same word can mean burden or oracle, according to the context. You are the burden. The false prophets hypocritically asking Jeremiah for an oracle are burdens that God will cast off. And no new word, burden, concerning Judah's situation will come. The Lord answered. God has already decided not to turn aside his wrath. And now Psalm 13 through 16. Psalm 13. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I take counsel in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all the day? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? Consider and answer me, O Lord my God. Light up my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. Lest my enemy say, I have prevailed over him. Lest my foes rejoice because I am shaken. But I have trusted in your steadfast love. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. I will sing to the Lord because he has dealt bountifully with me. Psalm 14. The fool, or stupid person, says in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt, and they do abominable deeds. There is none who does good. Another way to say this, there is no one who does good. The Lord looks down from heaven on the children of man to see if there are any who understand, who seek after God. They have all turned aside. Together they have become corrupt. There is none who does good, not even one. Have they no knowledge, all the evildoers who eat up my people as they eat bread and do not call upon the Lord? They are in great terror, for God is with the generation of the righteous. You would shame the plans of the poor, but the Lord is his refuge. Oh, that salvation for Israel would come out of Zion, when the Lord restores the fortunes of his people. Oh, let Jacob rejoice, let Israel be glad. Psalm 15. I love this one. Love, love, love. O Lord, who shall sojourn in your tent? Who shall dwell on your holy hill? Basically saying, who can spend their time in the presence of God? Well, let's find out. It is the person who walks blamelessly and does what is right, and speaks truth, not externally, but in his heart. Who does not slander with his tongue, and does no evil to his neighbor, nor takes up a reproach against his friend. In whose eyes a vile person is despised, but who honors those who fear the Lord, and who swears to his own hurt, and does not change, and who does not put out his money at interest, and does not take a bribe against the innocent. He who does these things shall never be moved. Psalm 16. Preserve me, O God, for in you I take refuge. I say to the Lord, you are my Lord. Note the lowercase Lord. I say to Yahweh, God, you are my ruler. I have no good apart from you. For the saints in the land, they are the excellent ones, in whom is all my delight. The sorrows of those who run after another God shall multiply. Their drink offerings of blood I will not pour out, or take their names on my lips. The Lord is my chosen portion and my cup. You hold my lot, saying, you are my everything. The lions have fallen for me in pleasant places. Indeed, I have a beautiful inheritance. I bless the Lord who gives me counsel. In the night also my heart instructs me. I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is at my right hand, I will not be shaken. Therefore my heart is glad, and my whole being rejoices. My flesh also dwells secure, for you will not abandon my soul to Sheol, the place of the dead, or let your Holy One see corruption. You make known to me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy, and at your right hand are pleasures forevermore. Behold, the word of the Lord.